Yep, I'll give you that if I can. I know I'm a hog for room. This thing.
You're good. Go for it.
Actually, I guess I could do this, huh?
People are the eyes and ears.
Bang,
People bring stuff up to me all the
bang the gavel.
Help. Do you mind that?
No, yes, fine.
All right.
Not in my way at all.
Great. All right. Ooh, kill my phone. Cell phones.
Let's do it.
Muted.
Yeah, she's four.
Muting.
Thank you.
All right. All right, folks. Oop, where's Anthony? I know he's here.
He's over there. I'll just go with it.
There. Do it.
Do it anyway.
Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If I could ask real quick for everyone to silence their cell phones. And welcome to the City of Winter Springs regular City Commission meeting of Monday, December 8th, 2025. Christian, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Kevin McCann.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Cade Resnick.
Present.
Commissioner Paul Diaz.
Present.
Commissioner Victoria Bruce.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Sarah Baker.
Present.
Commissioner Mark Caruso.
Present.
City Manager Kevin Sweet.
Present.
And City Attorney Anthony A. Garganese. He's present.
Great. Thanks for the patience. And Commissioner Bruce, I hope you can hear us okay. I know sometimes it's a little tough. I hope I'm not betraying a trust or anything, but she hurt her ankle severely, and so she's laid up a little bit. And we all wish you well.
Thank you so much. And I'm also in North Carolina, so there's two things going on. But thank you.
Well, thanks. Thanks for calling in. Okay, and now I believe we have we can all stand for the invocation followed by the pledge. My good friend, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Great to see such a strong turnout. Let's pray. Holy One, this is a wonderful season, a time of rejoicing, family time, celebrations. It's also a hard season for people who are grieving. We ask your consolation for those who are struggling. These are days that bring out the best in us. We envision a better world, and we are moved to kindness and generosity. We pray for that spirit of kindness and generosity to pervade our meeting tonight, and we pray that we might be guided to make Winter Springs an even better place to live than it already is. I would ask your blessing upon our mayor, upon our commissioners, upon our city manager, our city attorney, our city clerk, our police chief, our police department, for all who work in this fair city, and for all who call Winter Springs their home. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And I am sure that we'll have some items pulled from the consent agenda, as we usually do. Is there anything specific, one that you'd like to jump to first when we get to the consent agenda?
I got one.
Number?
308.
308, I suspect.
Bird
Okay.
road split.
Yep.
So, just for everybody, it's come to my attention last night and this morning, and then throughout the day, that there seems to be some scenarios or situations that things aren't necessarily as clean as they seem. I'm going to ask all of us if we would have the patience perhaps to send this, actually not to talk about it tonight, but to send it back to staff for some research. Take a look at some things. I know I got a document message to me from one of the residents today, which requires a 3,000 square foot property be built. I don't know how accurate that is, how inaccurate that is, but
Like
I
a
don't
deed
know.
restriction?
Yep. So because I don't have all the accurate information, I think everybody else here has it. So, and Anthony, I've got it here as a picture, but
You're referring to the lot split item
Yeah.
on Bird? No, I have not seen that document.
so it says
Yeah.
here 3,000 square feet minimum under roof excluding porches and garage.
I
So-
I would say that we probably need original document that actually shows that address and lists everything? and-
It's the whole,
That's-
it's the whole,
okay, good
it's supposed to be a deed for the deeded community. So since, right, you're 100% right. So if we could possibly just get this back to staff, that'd be my request.
deal. Is there objection to that?
I don't have any objection to that, Manager.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that yet, but I met with the neighbors today and went over the property, and it definitely has some constraints of where you could possibly build the house on it, and it would definitely be a smaller house. So if that deed restriction
I am
applies.
curious, does the city play a role in a deed restriction? And that's okay. We can
Not,
put- we can-
I mean,
we
we'll have
can
to take a
move
look,
this forward.
we'll take a look at whatever that document is. I mean, the city ordinarily does not take a role in enforcement of private deed restrictions. You know, on the other hand, the city did have a role in approving the plat in 2008 or something like that.
Yep.
So maybe something that the staff may not have seen or been brought to the staff's attention.
That
And
this
give
property was
staff an
already
opportunity
split.
to evaluate it and then come back and make sure that their recommendation is sound and whether or not they may have a change of heart.
You don't want to
that's what
go
I'm-
half-informed.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah,
Exactly.
Okay. So we're going to pull item 308 in
My
its
request.
entirety.
That's my
Okay.
request, yeah.
Okay, until the next city commission meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So hopefully there's not undue burden on the property owner, but we do need to make an informed decision. Okay, great.
gotta go.
Any other changes to the agenda?
No, I mean,
302 and 303.
Okay. Okay, well, hold on there a second. It doesn't work quite like that. We're going to go back to, we will have a chance of, but, I'm sorry, Commissioner, you were saying 302 and,
Yeah, just pull those from the consent agenda.
so just talk about them separately prior to the vote for the consent agenda?
Yes, please.
Okay, that's 302 and 303?
Yes.
Okay. Any other agenda changes? Okay, seeing none. So what we're going to, just so that what you understand, just as the process goes, what we're going to do is we're going to do our awards and presentations, a proclamation and a stormwater master plan update, and then we're going to open it up to public input. We'll allow you to go first, and we'll hear you out, okay? So, all right, that then brings us to item 100, and the issuance of a proclamation recognizing the United States semi-centennial, and I apologize. And Doctor, I think you're with us. So we have this great, we have that wonderful chance. When I was a kid, I think I was 12 years old in 1776 when the United States celebrated its 200th anniversary.
You're immortal?
This is, yeah, right? Yes, hey. And so we are now reaching our 250th anniversary. And just as a proclamation and making clear to all of the residents, I'd like to read a little statement real quick. And then we have the director of the Seminole County Historical Society in the running of the museum. Is that right, Doctor? Historical Commissioner. Thank you. I want to make sure I get it right. And so, really, it is fascinating. I don't think that people understand the history of Seminole County and the role that even Winter Springs plays in it. And I don't believe I'm going to, there was a surveyor in 1765 that came down to St. John's under commission by the king to survey the eastern part of central Florida. And Doctor can correct me a little bit, but this surveyor, Dubois, I believe his name was, and he may have been a duke or he might have been something, but he came down through and he came all the way down. Fascinating piece of history. Seminole County, right, this is 1765. We know that Sanford has, if I'm not mistaken, is the oldest city, and Altamont has lots of history. But the actual evidence of a European being in Seminole County was a fireman was walking through Central Winds Park on Lake Jessup and found a coin dropped by one of Dubois' team members. So the earliest, is that you? Man, I want to have a cup of coffee with you.
yay.
I have been wanting to talk to you.
I I know, he's here for
Like,
everything.
I have been talking to my wife and friends about you for a long time. I just find that fascinating. I heard about that. It's the, sincerely, sir, thanks for your service as a firefighter. Thanks for this. And then turning around and donating it to the county. Sir, I really, wow, what a great move. I'm a history buff, and I love it. Thanks. So if you caught that, so there is a coin with Dubrow's name on it, apparently, right? And I've seen it at the Historical Center. And it was found, and it is the first evidence of a European being in Seminole County, and it's in Winter Springs. So I think it's fascinating, and I think it's really great. If I can, I'll get up and we'll take some pictures with I do have a full lengthy proclamation. I won't bore you with that, but how about 20 seconds, just to say that we come together to recognize a milestone, not only in our nation's history, but in the story of every community that calls America home. As we prepare to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, we reflect on the extraordinary courage and vision that shaped a new nation and forever changed the course of history. Here in Winter Springs, we also acknowledge our own connection to that early story. Long before Seminole County existed, explorers and surveyors traveled through what would one day become our community, marking the earliest maps of East Florida and contributing to the broader American narrative. We've been able to play a role in that. The centennial is more than a date. It is an opportunity for all of us to honor the principles of freedom, democracy, and self-government, and to recommit ourselves to the ideals that unite us as Americans. And so with that, I'm proud to proclaim the year of 2026 as a year-long celebration of America's 250th anniversary in the city of Winter Springs, and I encourage all of our residents to join in observing this historic occasion with gratitude, reflection, and community spirit. Thank you. Doctor?
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Deborah Bauer. My address for the record is 230 East First Street, Sanford, Florida. And I am here tonight because I had the distinct pleasure of serving as one of Seminole County's historical commissioners. And within that guise, 6 months ago, we were working under the impetus of the county to form a planning subcommittee so we could come up with a unified plan to be able to commemorate this awesome celebration in 2026. And I want to take this opportunity to thank City Manager Sweet, Mayor McCann, Commissioners Caruso, Resnick, Baker, Bruce, and Diaz for all of your support in helping us make that a possibility. It's one of the first times where we can say we actually had representatives from all 7 municipalities, the county, the school district, the airport, and Seminole State College all working together to put together a really wonderful plan of celebration for the coming year. And all of these proclamations, Winter Springs has the distinction of being first more than once, because I'm very happy to say that although other cities and the county will be doing their proclamations, you all have been the first to denote 2026 a year of celebration. And just kind of to add to Mayor McCann's fun fact, Winter Springs actually is in the early record. We have ties to the Declaration of Independence and this time period where everyone always used to think that, oh, Seminole County doesn't have history. And if it does have history, it's about the Seminole Wars, it's about the 1800s. We go back much further, so much so that a little known fact, Lake Jessup, before it was Lake Jessup, was actually called Lake Beresford. And we had citizens of the British Empire back in the day in the 1760s and 1770s who had that land granted to them. So our history goes back much further than anyone perhaps realized before this year. So I want to thank you all for this opportunity and the support. And I look forward to having 12 more months of celebration going forward.
Well, thank you very much. Shall we take some pictures? Yeah. You know, I'll drop a fun fact. If you're a history buff like I am, if you go to the Seminole County Historical Society, and in that building has just massive reams and reams and reams of historical data. And I've spent afternoons there with a cup of coffee and just going through that stuff. And I found the the first map that, or the oldest map that I could find was from 85, that shows Tuscaloosa. That area is named Tuscaloosa.
Oh, how
And-
cool.
Yeah, and I found that map for the first time it was labeled. And it really is fascinating so long before Winter Springs and things. The history here is really, we've got a lot to be proud of, and it's fascinating. So pictures.
I want a picture of that. I want to hang it in my house.
Oh, I got it. I have it.
you?
Yeah, yeah, I got it. Yeah.
That'd be cool to hang in my house, like in the family room or something.
It's faded.
It's faded, yeah. I bet.
And there is, what's the map from Dubrov? That was, so the map that he drew, and then that's hanging in the historical center from 1765. Actually,
That's for you.
come on up. And what's your name? Ken. Yeah, that's not a surprise. Tuck your shirt in. Can we, Christian, she can take that with her to the store. I had no idea. Thank you very much. I'm only here for this. Was it?
Yeah, I didn't know I was in the presence of greatness today when we were meeting.
Those are not sketches. No. No, those are not sketches.
Never heard of them.
Oh, look them up. Look them up. You guess those are kid mark.
He's got jokes.
Did you get my email?
Yeah, that's moving
If I wore those, Denise would
I
disown me.
just sent it, like, right before the meeting started.
You got to see the shoes that I was trying to get, and I think they're great. And she won't let me
I'm
get
sure I
them.
got it. I didn't.
Probably so, unless I typed something wrong.
You need another job. They're comfortable. They are very comfortable.
They look it.
Yeah, he was one of the people I met with today in the neighborhood.
Oh,
Yeah.
so that's ironic. So I guess Ken wasn't even here for that proclamation. He was here for other city business and about the lot split and things. That's just ironic that you're sitting here. What a coincidence. But it just kind of shows the community that we have, right? We're all kind of involved and we do our part. So, all right. Moving on, that was enjoyable. Okay, now we're going to get down to some business and the item 101, Stormwater Master Plan Update and Scheduling. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor McCann, City Commissioners, Cleet Saunier, your Director of Public Works and Utilities. I'm delighted to be here tonight. Want to give you a brief snapshot of what we're moving forward and what is the culmination of many, many months of study and hard work in developing the Stormwater Master Plan. I've invited our consultants at Kimley Horn and Associates. We have Matt Brossman, Senior Consultant with Julia Felter and Marcus Geiger. We're also joined tonight by David Hamstra with Pegasus, who's been instrumental in giving us some peer review pointers on that. But it's going to be very brief, just a few minutes, just to give you an idea of what to expect on December 18th at the special meeting in which the Stormwater Master Plan will be presented to you. Matt will give you a very brief overview of the contents of that plan, what the intention is, what staff will be requesting from you at that time, and then moving on into January and February, ultimately into the conclusion of the rate study. And what you'll hear tonight is is these are all prerequisites before we can actually jump into a formal rate study analysis and forecast. So with that, I'll invite Matt up here, if you would start. Give us a presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. Tough act to follow with a great
First and last
proclamation.
name for the record.
Yes, Matt Brosman with Kimley Horn.
Thanks.
So yeah, thank you, commissioners and Mr. Mayor, for having me again. My name is Matt Brosman with Kimley Horn. I am a professional engineer with Kimley Horn, and we're just here to present on a status update of the Stormwater Master Plan and talk about the schedule of the overall stormwater improvement program. So just what we'll be talking about today, first I'll cover that Stormwater Master Plan, the outcome of which is that prioritized capital improvement project list. Next, we'll discuss the pond maintenance policy. As Clete alluded to, those two items are important financial prerequisites before moving into the stormwater rate study. And then lastly, we'll just cover schedule, where we're at in the schedule, and what the next steps are. So that Stormwater Master Plan, we're nearing completion. We're right at the finish line here. One big piece of information that we got earlier this year was Seminole County finalized their 5 watershed models for the 5 watersheds that drain to and through the city of Winter Springs, ultimately into Lake Jessup. And so the adoption and completion of those models was integral to our completion of the city's Stormwater Master Plan due to those capital projects' integration with the overall watershed function. So 46 areas of interest were identified as part of the plan, and out of those came 12 capital improvement projects. And as I mentioned, those that prioritized list of projects is alongside maintenance program recommendations, the primary outcome of this Stormwater Master Plan, and the adoption of the Stormwater Master Plan, which we'll be asking of Commission at the December 18th special Commission meeting. That is a prerequisite to the before moving on to the rate study, again, due to those financial implications in the plan. So next, the pond maintenance policy. So what we're talking about here is for all the stormwater ponds spread throughout the city, we can broadly put them into a few categories. So public ponds, so those are like city-maintained ponds on city property. Those are already part of the stormwater maintenance program. Private ponds are not currently included in the maintenance program, so those would be like your ponds that are collecting water from private properties and being held on private property. And then that third bucket is hybrid ponds, which is really anything that doesn't cleanly fit into one of the first two. Might be private water draining to a public facility, might be a private facility with a city interest, or any other sort of gray area. That maintenance policy is currently under review. So what we'll be asking of Commission at the January 12th Commission meeting, we'll have a presentation on the pond maintenance policy, and we'll be asking for Commission's input and direction forward on that policy at that January 12th meeting. And similar to the master plan, due to the financial implications of that maintenance policy, depending on the direction that the city goes, we need that information prior to embarking on that rate study. So just to give a little bit of context of once we've got that information and what those what that rate study public meetings are going to look like, as I mentioned, that adopted prioritized capital improvement project list, as well as the adopted pond maintenance policy. Those are going to be two key inputs to the development of that rate study. And so at future public meetings, in coordination with our subconsultant, Raftellus, a financial analyst, they're going to come and present a series of alternative multi-year rate structures, right? So what that means is, depending on the route that the city chooses to go in terms of implementing that capital improvement plan, right? If we choose to implement over 5 years versus 20 years, what does that do to the rate? As well as things like alternative funding approaches, right? What do grants do to that rate? Or if we consider things like financing, the timeline implementation of the program, all of those things will have an impact on the rate. And so, as you'll see on the schedule, we've got 2 planned public outreach meetings for that rate study, following the 2 prerequisite adoptions. So again, just a brief overview of the schedule. Next Thursday at that special commission meeting, Thursday morning, I believe, at 9 a.m., we'll be here for that special meeting to present on, discuss the Stormwater Master Plan, and we'll also be requesting the city to adopt that plan. In the new year, at the regularly scheduled commission meeting, there'll be a presentation on January 12th for the pond maintenance policy. And again, we'll be looking for adoption of direction forward on that policy at that meeting. And then 2 weeks after that, on Monday, January 26th, that's the tentative scheduled date for the first public presentation in coordination with Raftellus for the stormwater rate study. And then 2 weeks after that, on Monday, February 9th, that would be presentation number 2. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions. Thank you for your time.
If I can, real quick, when will we get a copy of this report? Certainly like it before that date. If we're going
Yes.
to be asked to vote on something, we'd love to have that well in advance.
We'll be delivering that this week.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
this week.
Okay. And I apologize if I usually like to let you guys go first.
That was the question I wrote down as well.
That's a really, really important.
Popular
item.
question.
Yeah. Any questions? Okay, so we have this meeting scheduled for the morning. The only thing that we're going to really be voting on is, on the 18th, is to move forward with the rate study?
No, adopt the master
Or
plan.
adopting it, and then, right, which will include a rate study?
Correct. So the vote on the 18th is to adopt the Stormwater Master Plan, which includes the prioritized list of capital improvement projects and future maintenance programs.
Okay. If there are no other questions, we'll look forward to getting that report, being able to do our due diligence in advance. Kind of like when we have other issues, we want to make sure we have all the information before we make a decision. We'll see you on the 18th.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Okay. So that then brings us to public input. And I'm going to ask for maybe a little bit of room with the very first person, but I'm going to go ahead and read our standard kind of guidance here for the public input. So anyone who wishes to speak during public input on any agenda item or subject matter will need to fill out a blue public input form. Individuals will limit their comments to 3 minutes, and representatives of groups or homeowners associations shall limit their comments to 5 minutes unless otherwise determined by the city commission. This is not intended to be a back and forth question. This is your opportunity to be heard, voice an opinion on something. And then but we won't be engaging back and forth, maybe with the exception of the first speaker, where we may just have a question or two. Does that sound appropriate to the commission? Well, I think the gentleman who owns the lot that was asking to be split, is that right? Yeah. Sir, if you'll state your name. For the record, the only other requisite for when public speaking is your name and whether or not you're a resident or not. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor McCann and commissioners. My name is Damian Cardona. I am not currently a resident, but I do own 1447 Bird Road in Winter Springs. What I briefly overheard was, I guess another resident nearby brought up that there would have to be a proposed minimum 3,000 square foot house on the lot that's being split. Part of the back and forth that I had with the senior planners over the course of over a year doing this application was in round 2 of like 6 back and forths was providing a proposed home for the split lot, which my current general contractor provided. fit within the 50-foot front setback and within the 20-foot side setbacks and doesn't cross over to the utility easement, and proposed a 4,000 square foot home. So with that, I'll answer any questions, but I'm not sure why there would be any.
I get the only, there seems to be some documents that are floating out there that say there may be deed restrictions or something. Forgive me if I'm speaking for the dais here. They just want to make sure before we say yes to something that we have all the information. And I apologize, actually, as professionally, that it's gotten to this point and now suddenly we realize that there's something, look, there may, or folks, if there's if it meets all codes, if it meets all requirements, we legally very well may not be able to stop this. This isn't a popularity contest things. We have to work within the law. However, if there is some deed restriction or something, we just need we need the city attorney to have a chance to look at things. We don't want to make a muddy situation muddier and then have to try in some way to retract a vote or say, hey, we were wrong, he is allowed to vote, he is allowed to do it, or the other way around, hey, we said yes, but he's not allowed to do it. We just don't want to make a mistake. Is that?
Point of order, though, Mr. Mayor, because we're in public input, not in discussion. But since we are having the discussion, I mean, when I read the agenda sent to me last week, it says here that the Community Development Department recommends the City Commission approve adoption of Resolution 2025-24, providing for the division of 1447 Bird Road. The owner just stated that he's been in talks with the city for a year to get a house built. Just think about this, okay? And now, on the night of the meeting, we're finding out when the agenda opens up that now we just want to block it? I mean, this doesn't sound like good government, doesn't sound like fair government to a homeowner or potential homeowner. I mean, you're a landowner, obviously, in our city. I mean, it sounds like the beginning of the typical government extortion of trying to extract more money from someone who's investing. I'm really concerned that we're even doing this at the last minute. This didn't come up today, Mr. City Manager, this didn't come up today in our meeting. So I guess this is new to you as well?
That's correct, as of this afternoon.
So, I mean, we're doing these things last minute like this. There's no heads up, just blindsided when we get up here. And it's, I mean, putting a strain on someone who is building a property in our city. I mean, what kind of message does that send to the other residents that own homes here or want to improve on their properties? There's a lot of opportunities for infill development in my district. And this kind of message that we are sending now is saying, you know what, we don't welcome, you know, your business and your investment in our city. I'm very concerned that this is being done right now. I know we're not having a discussion, it's public information, but since you wanted to explain it, I wanted to explain that there's clearly another view here.
Keep moving, Mayor. Keep moving,
Hold
Mayor.
on.
Keep moving. It's public input. Keep moving.
So, everyone, I asked for an exception with the very first speaker, and that we were going to kind of do a little bit more than we normally do. That's exactly what I said, if I recall. So I did want to allow the gentleman to be heard. We have a dissenting opinion. Just want to make sure, just to formalize this, would it be appropriate do we need a vote to table this? We didn't actually take a vote. It was just kind of a verbal, and now we appear to have someone disagreeing to do the due diligence or looking forward at other
I thought
information.
the commission when they set the agenda, they removed this item, and then 2 items are going to be discussed on consent.
But we don't need to vote on, we don't need a formal vote
Seemed to be
bump
consensus
this.
to do that, make that adjustment on the agenda. So, I mean, if there's new information regarding the application that someone has, I think staff should have an opportunity to look at it. And, you know, my understanding regarding this person, and I don't think we need to really delve into it much, he already has one home that's already under construction, and he's close to getting a certificate of occupancy. The issue that he's talking about is the front portion if there's a lot split. So, you know, I think, you know, you've already made a decision to move on this item. We'll bring it up in January.
Got it.
And
My
if
only
anybody has
question-
any information they want the city to look at, by all means, present it so it can be looked at. This is not one of those items that goes to the Planning and Zoning Board and an advertised hearing. This item comes straight to the commission. So perhaps people didn't have an opportunity until they saw the agenda go out that this item was on the agenda tonight. So, you know,
The only question, again, is we don't need a vote. We can
No,
just
sir.
go by. Okay, thanks.
And I'm not arguing the procedure of pulling it from the agenda, I get it. It's that it's happening at the last minute, and just wrap your head around this. We have what, over $1 million worth of salaries in that department, and a year later, we're having this conversation? This didn't come up a year ago? Now, all of a sudden, he's at the end of the process, and you have a really nice property, would hate for you to lose it over new paperwork and bureaucracy. I mean, something doesn't smell right here, that this is coming up at the last minute and only one commissioner knows about it. City doesn't know about it. Nobody knew about it until now. Something doesn't smell right, and just, at least for the record, let the record reflect that I don't think this smells right. This looks like the typical garment extortion that we've been seeing in the past.
Okay.
If I,
And Deputy Mayor, your button's lit.
No, it's not.
No, sorry, it was.
It's me.
Oh,
You're the deputy mayor tonight?
No, I'm not.
sorry, I think we do have them switch backwards, but Commissioner.
So just a quick question, if Anthony knows the answer to this, who's responsible for giving us the deed restriction? Because if, apparently you only have one and the rest of us
The
don't.
resident texted it to me, that's how I got it.
Yeah, I haven't seen the document, so I'm not going to speak
Would that
to
be
it.
something that the homeowner or the landowner is supposed to have, or?
Well, this is, in essence, since we're all talking about it now, this is why we need a detailed agenda item. This is not detailed, if it's gone from January to now, we need more details in this, because the residents around this property had a lot of concerns that, as I found out about it, reached out to the city manager, and he didn't know. So,
When the residents reached out to me, that's the only way I found out that there were concerns.
And so, in closing, and we'll wrap this up, that we acknowledge that there is a dissent vote against bumping this. That's on the record. And the other, if I'm not mistaken, that the majority of the dais would like to make sure that we have all the information before we make a decision.
Well, Mayor, there wasn't, right? So you asked if the agenda could be adopted based on the changes that were made. Nobody voiced objection at the time. It's
Okay, technically, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
could I say one last thing?
Sure.
My mom and I originally bought the land to kind of build our dream home, and she passed in early 2024. And so half a year later is when we started the lot split application. And like I said earlier, we've been kind of doing this for over a year now. And I mean, part of that was, I think the city went through multiple senior planners. Also, some of it was the construction loan bank. There was a transfer of service and all that, and it caused some delays. But I am hoping to become a resident of Winter Springs, and we're selling the currently constructed home to basically pay for my wife and my 14-month-old boy, and we want to build a house that kind of fits more of what we can afford and not some like big luxurious dream home that was supposed to be with me and my mom. So I've been very diligent about what the city has asked and what they require, and I feel I've provided that, and at no point anywhere along the lines has there been any note of something that can't happen. And the only thing I heard earlier was the 3,000 minimum square foot home, and we have a 6,000 square foot home that's being built now, and the proposed one for when the lot split happens is 4,000 square feet, which is already fulfilling Winter Springs requirements of where it needs to be located and how far set back. So I've just been at this a very long time, and I'm kind of hoping to move forward with my family. So these delays are costing me multiple thousands of dollars a month to keep construction going on the old house because we can't sell it if the lot's not split, and it's just a financial burden at this point that I feel I've been doing the best I can for the city to kind of move this along.
I sincerely apologize. And I mean that from me personally, and I think, and we're not trying to hurt you, but we understand and I acknowledge it's causing you some harm. We just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And that, okay. With that, we'll go back to regular rules. It will no longer be a back and forth, but anyone that would like to step forward, madam, can come forward and be heard. How are you, Miss Benton?
I'm fine. How are you, commissioners? Can you make sure there's one for the record? give all the commissioners, please?
And
Oh, you kept on for? Thank you.
You want my funny thing?
this is, yeah, you can have your, they have little.
Yeah.
Sheila Benton, I am indeed a Winter Springs resident, have been for many, many years. Commissioners, happy holidays. Now on to the business. You were elected to represent all the citizens of Winter Springs. One of your most important responsibilities is to provide guidance to the city manager on how taxpayer dollars should be spent, prioritizing the safety and needs of our residents above the political noise and distraction. In September, residents reported a drain inlet on Birch Terrace with an exposed rebar. More recently, I notified the city about additional hazards at Murphy and Edgemont, where crushed and open inlets pose real risks to anyone walking or driving by. I would ask each of you to get in your cars, even if it is a Tesla, to drive over and observe for yourself of these hazards which would be allowed, if they're allowed to exist. I want to be clear. Those of us who live on the west side of the city know we are not Tuscaloosa. But we want you to know that our concerns deserve equal attention and timely action. 3 cones and putting up on a to-do list is not an adequate response from both the city manager and the head of the public works when public safety is at risk. We will not be the orphans who still pay taxes and receive nothing. It is especially concerning to see why these hazards remain unaddressed. Repairs elsewhere move forward. I ask each of you, our elected commissioners, to drive through District 1 and see these locations for yourself. These repairs must be placed at the top of a priority list and remain there until they're completed. So why am I here tonight? First, to remind you that the city manager will require support and necessary funding to address the needs of our residents before funding personal projects, political interests, or special projects. Secondly, and importantly, our community must learn to communicate better. Residents tired of personal arguments, stray comments, and unrelated disputes on the dais. We want professionalism, cooperation, and a shared focus, putting Winter Springs residents first. And finally, I remind you that Attorney Jones is not the only attorney prepared to take a case if someone is injured. The question is whether the next preventable injury will happen on your watch.
Thank you, ma'am. We need to wrap up. Thanks.
I have one more sentence. Can I have it?
Wait.
One more sentence.
Let her finish.
Okay.
Commissioners, the people of Winter Springs on every side of the city deserve safety, responsiveness, leadership committed to serving them. I urge you to make these priorities a priority and to demonstrate through action that every resident matters. Thank you.
Just let the lady go, right? Yep. Yep.
Hit the button. Hit the button.
Or hold it up closer or something.
I'll eat it, okay.
There you go.
Leah Weissman, and I was saying, I'm so used to telling my address, I almost did it.
And you are a resident.
And I am definitely a resident.
Yeah.
And I know some of you are going, darn. No, it's a first reading of an ordinance, and I'm going to kind of ask questions. You can just think about it, because I know you can't answer them, but.
Sorry.
It's for 402.
Can I interrupt for just a second? So anything about 402 will need to be
During
During.
During
402,
part
yeah.
402, it's a public hearing.
Because it's a public hearing, and we're going to we'll have another public input for that because it's listed under the public hearing agenda items. So if
I
you're going
missed the
to
title
talk about
change.
something under public hearings, then we'll do that at that time.
You want 3 minutes
right.
again then?
And then, okay, then see if there's, yeah, I guess that all applies to there. I guess I don't have any, you got me stumped.
Well, that's okay. You'll
Nothing
have
in the
2 more
500?
opportunities,
I
one
will
up for
see
402 and one at the end. Okay.
Impossible.
Anyone else that would like this opportunity, ma'am? You can step forward and, yeah, unless you, yeah. And name for the record, and if you are a resident. Thanks.
Suzanne Kuhn, 1404 Tusca Trail, Winter Springs is my address. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you. This is concerning the lot split that the gentleman spoke before
He left.
as he left. And I do apologize to him. I feel the difficulty that he's feeling. Unfortunately, just a little over 2 weeks ago, me and my neighbors made aware that this was going on. And immediately, we called the office and asked for the plan. And they said, we don't have the plan yet, and we'll send it to you when we do. We got it on Friday. So today's Monday? Yeah, we got it on Friday. So today is when we saw that plan, we reached out to commissioners to talk about the plan. Because as a neighborhood, we're very concerned about the lot split. And so the reason, and we do see that there are the ability to have 2 1-acre lots, but it's not as it appears easily on paper. The lots as split would be, the majority of the lot is a large easement of Duke Energy, 2/3 of the lot. Now, on the plan that I received, I did not see that there could be a 4,000 square foot house put on that very small, with all the setbacks and the extra driveway that's going to have to go back to his home that he's building now. But the point of it is, and we do have the 3,000 square foot limit on adjoining lots. It's not the deed restrictions for his specific property, but that's a moot point if he can put a large enough house on it. The point is that I've lived there for over 20 years, and when I first got there, I realized that these people had been fighting to remain these rural estate lots that are there. There's a neighborhood called Sturbridge, and they wanted to put multifamily homes there, and they weren't allowed to. It could have been legal to do it, but they weren't allowed to because it is a rural area. There are rural estates that are 2 acres, that are 6,000 square foot homes like he built. He said he fits in with it on his 2 acres with his 6,000 square foot home. That's what fits there. And now what we're wanting to do is put in on its very small lots, because the problem is that if this lot is split, the lots on either side of him will be split as well. And those lots are not going to put a 4,000 square foot home on there. And so those of us that have invested many dollars and time and effort into trying to keep our homes the value that we have them, that will be lost if all of these lots are split. It's my understanding that originally they wanted it to be 8 lots, but it was limited to 4 2.5-acre lots when it was split. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? There you are. Good evening, Commissioner.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor, city manager. Hold it, let me get my papers before you start running the clock on me. This is,
Name and if you're a resident.
oh, I've been here 31 years. I
know.
sat up here for 12 years as one of you. And I've been a resident of Winter Springs since 1991. I already lost 15 seconds. But I
For
never
the
got
record,
shot.
it's Bob Miller, and he is a resident. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
let's try and clarify some things that have happened here in the last, I don't know, year or two. Mr. Phillips is an important Republican state party man who lives here in Winter Springs. He set up a non-existent political action committee organization here in our city called Winter Springs Community Association. In our last two elections, Winter Springs Community Association endorsed candidates who won all 5 districts, which means 5 of you are up there now because his organization endorsed you. Mr. Phillips then sends scandalous accusations of corruption and lies to Senator Broder, who's in charge of the ILAG, the corruption outfit up in Washington, in Tallahassee that looks into these things. Broder then stupidly demands a JLAC audit of the bankrupt city of Winter Springs. The mayor appeared before that committee when it was being held, and they accused him of running a bankrupt city, which was not true. They deliberately weaponized an attack on our city. Then county commissioners also demand a county audit of the city of Winter Springs. These are historical key points that all of you here need to listen, our residents in this city. 2 years later, Broder's state and county audit charges all turned out to be baseless. There was nothing, yeah, we needed a new sewer system, we needed some water improvements, but there was no corruption. People selling our city equipment, incredible. Mr. Phillips then announces in mid-2025 that he's going to run for the new city mayor in Winter Springs. Oh, God. All of the 5 endorsed recipients now demand an illegal charter change, which are all of you up there. In November 2025, 4 Seminole County elected officials agreed to vote to support an unprecedented change in Winter Springs charter, our city charter. Doug Ballaston, Jason Broder, Rachel Plankton, and Susan Placenia. And what have you 5 here been planning with the above county and state representatives? After the next election, eliminate your city mayor as an elected position, and you appoint one of yourselves as the new mayor. All this has been happening, and we don't know anything about it. We just keep getting surprised, and we read the newspapers that this is going on, and all of us wonder, what is going on among all of you that we're not aware of, that it doesn't happen here in public, in front of us? Such endeavors among those who have taken an oath of trust and allegiance could be referred to as someone's participating in treason. You all need to be careful. Don't deliver us up and destroy our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anyone else that would like to take this opportunity? Mr. Gallo.
Good evening. Art Gallo, Winter Springs resident. I want to discuss why I oppose the 23 October 25 Seminole County Legislative Delegation's SCLD, I'll call it for sure, local bill proposed by Representative Plakin to change our city's charter. Here are 4 reasons for our residents to research, and I hope they do. 1, strong mayor. A strong mayor could have executive and administrative powers beyond the council's power and could become the elected administrator. Under this concept, the mayor could become the city manager. They can hire, fire staff as an example, which will have major implications. In my opinion, it will devastate staff morale and result in staff turnovers, something commented in all these audits that Commissioner Miller just spoke about. It assumes someone on the dais is qualified and experienced to act as the city manager. I know you remember it took 1.5 years to find and hire Mr. Sweet. Highly qualified, years of experience, and I think he's the only one qualified to be our city manager. It also allows an ordinance to be adopted and codified by the City Commission to make charter amendments by ordinance with only a majority vote of the dais. This is dangerous. Number 2, not in support of home rule, as was advertised by Mr. Jesse Phillips in his 21 October 25 article with the Winter Springs Community Association, because other than Mr. Phillips and Mr. Greenberg, who are both advocating for this bill, no residents of our city have had any input into Representative Plakin's drafted local bill, and this includes all of you. Only 2 of the 4 SCLD yes votes were provided by people who even represent Winter Springs residents in the legislature. Using the data provided by Mr. Greenberg at his public input on 23 October to the SCLD meeting that about, quote, 450 respondents, unquote, to a survey were in favor of this. Assuming all of these, quote, respondents were residents and eligible to vote, that number is still less than 1.5% of the total eligible voting population in Winter Springs, hardly a majority. 3, it's not clear that the state legislature can even legally change the city's charter. There's no discussion, specific or implied, in the law that states that the legislature has the power to submit by local bill for referendum to change a city's charter. We can and should legally challenge this in the Florida Supreme Court. And the Florida League of Cities should be assisting us with this. No bill has yet been filed by Representative Plakin, which so far seems to support my points that this is a terrible idea. And finally, the SCLD action bypasses the Winter Springs residents and our commission. As an analogy, this is the same as if the federal government drafted changes to the Florida Constitution and the U.S. Congress for the Florida voters. It would never happen. Yet this is exactly what Representative Plakin is doing. Can't figure it out. And by the way, I have yet to have a meeting with her, though I've asked many times. Too busy, I guess. Elections matter, ladies and gentlemen. And who we place up there on the dais matters. Because if we don't get this right, a mayor could fire the staff, become city manager, and ruin this whole city. Thank you all. I apologize for my emotion. This is important, and I hope the residents do their homework and research this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to take this first opportunity? My new friend Ken. Irony, right?
It is.
Yeah.
My name is Ken Tabatsky. I'm a Seminole County resident, not Winter Springs resident. I'll try to keep it real brief. I just want to address your concerns. I agree with you. If I were a property owner and I went through things, I would be frustrated. Given I am familiar with Winter Springs and the rules as far as what he's allowed to do, that's his entitlement. And per the policies, he's allowed to do that. The question isn't whether he's allowed to do it, it's whether he should do that. Because some of the situation, when you think about 2 acres and you split it, you think nice wooded lot, nice wooded lot. That's not this case. And I'm just now finding out, as we are, that it's a 4,000 square foot property that doesn't even look like it could be there, almost like a square peg in a round hole. How's it going to fit there? And so our concern is that if this passes, we open Pandora's box to other people right there, taking away the rural life that people move there to, especially the homeowner. He moved there with a 2-acre lot. He signed the agreement. He wanted to live there with his family and have that rural quality. He's about to, by his action, take that away, not just from him, but his neighbors. And so it's a difficult situation. By law, yes, you said it earlier, if A plus B equals C, yes, he should be able to do it. We have no say. So it's really just comes down to a matter of not whether he can, but should he. And so that's the reason why we're here. And like my girlfriend and everybody else, we just found out. And everything that everybody has heard from us, we just put in the last 24 hours because we just found out. If we had a year to go, we could have done a lot more to get more information, especially like the square footage and all that stuff, and we could have a better argument. but we're not here to try and stop him from doing what he's entitled to do. We just want to make sure the residents of Winter Springs, the people you talked about, we walked around in the ranch lands, just walked and asked people. 100% of the people we spoke to just today signed a petition and said, we don't want that. They knew the property that was already in discussion, and they had issues with it, and we were the first they heard of it. And these are people who have 5-acre lots. Who's to say that they say, oh, I can now sell my property into 5-acre lots and take away from the next resident? So at some point, somebody has to be the caretaker and draw that line. I've been a resident for over 40 years in Seminole County. All the places I grew up and played, the orange groves, they're all gone. They're houses. So this is one of the last, like, residential strongholds. Sorry, it's emotional, but the people that see it, it's important. And so who's going to fight? So that's why we're coming to you. So I apologize, but
No,
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it. Anyone else? No? Okay. So, oh, sir?
Good evening.
It's usually the other way around.
Yeah.
I know. I was like, where's Linda?
It's okay, go ahead, you get a voice.
She's
Go
going
ahead.
on me tonight. So
Name
Scott Freeburn, I'm Cougar Court, I live here in Winter Springs. Just a real quick update. So I know in the past few meetings, there's been discussions about the Tuscarora 7-Eleven, AKA, I think it's Clubhouse Deli or something, or was supposed to be. Yeah, but I'm just wondering if somebody within code enforcement's got their finger on the pulse over there. Linda and I walk all the time, and we see what's going on, or in this case, what's not going on. I mean, it's a pig's breakfast over there. It looks terrible. He continues to dig holes and plant stuff in the ground. There's pipe everywhere. There's big racks of stuff. There's big containers out front. So the other day we were walking, I was curious. I saw 2 postings on the door, and it looked like eviction notices. One was dated the 8th of November, the other the 11th. And then I got closer and I was reading them, and then there was a placard from Duke Energy. They've shut the power off. And then the smell hit me. I think they must have had refrigeration in there with, maybe they had meats and things, but there was something rotting inside, and it smells terrible. So at some point, it's going to be quite a cleanup on aisle 3 in there. So just give somebody an update with, code enforcement. They might want to take a look, because I think there's something pretty nasty growing in there. All right.
Chief, start on aisle 3 and see what it looks like, please.
Yeah.
Bulldozer.
Yeah, oh, right.
Bulldozer.
That whole situation breaks my heart. Okay, anyone else? All right, so then we'll move on to the consent agenda, and why don't we start with item 302, proposal for Utilities Department to purchase one F-450 utility body crane truck. Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and if, and I guess at this point, this is more procedural than it is on the actual items themselves. If I can combine the discussion of 302 and 303 together, I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
I guess at this point now, I'm requesting the body to delay action on these 2 items, pending a formal legal opinion from our city attorney. On December 4th, Commissioner Caruso sent an email to all 4 of the other voting commissioners. So every commissioner that would vote on this item, but specifically excluded you, Mr. Mayor. Although you're non-voting, you're obviously up here on the dais with us. Excluded city staff, excluded the city manager from that email. The email advocated for approval of these specific agenda items, stating that the trucks need to be replaced and characterizing one as safer. So it was an actual advocacy piece. When one commissioner communicates with all other voting members about a matter that will come before us, it's going to raise serious sunshine law questions. And I really do need our city attorney to provide a written opinion on whether this communication process complies with Florida law. So my question for the city attorney is, does an email from one commissioner to all 4 other voting commissioners, basically the entire decision-making body at this point, but excluding the non-voting mayor, excluding the city staff, excluding yourself, excluding the city manager, that advocates for specific agenda items constitute a violation of Florida's Government in the Sunshine Law, And does this communication among all 5 voting commissioners outside of a properly noticed public meeting constitute an improper meeting under the Florida statutes?
I haven't, obviously, I think you even noted it, I haven't seen the communication that you're referring to, so I'd like to look at that. But if you're asking for a big opinion, I guess I'm not prepared to do that either. I mean, there is some general law about commissioners providing positions regarding matters that could be coming before you on an agenda, and then commissioners should not be responding to those position correspondence or communications. So there is that out there. But with respect to whether or not that has a negative impact on these 2 agenda items to purchase trucks, like you're proposing, I would have to look at that and get back to the commission.
I just forwarded it to you. In my personal opinion, I felt like I didn't feel swayed one way or the other. I felt like he was trying to just give us information, but we did let him know that he probably shouldn't have done that. But since it was already a budgeted line item and it was in consent agenda, I see Commissioner Diaz's point, but you'll have to look at it yourself. That was just my opinion, that it was more informational than.
That's how I took it.
Again, when, we've talked, I think may have talked about this before, when commissioners feel the necessity to share information regarding matters, the best protocol, of course, is to share that information with the city clerk, so the city clerk can disseminate it. I would advise you just generally, in an abundance of caution, not to communicate with one another on positions that come before the commission. The best approach is to go through the clerk and pass that information along so it can be put, sometimes included in an agenda if it's given in advance, or if not in advance enough to get to the commission as part of the package, it can be presented later. That's would be my protocol advice. I'm not sure this rises to a technical, legal prohibition on the communication itself. May not have been advisable in the manner in which it was done. But I think the operative question for the commission, at least as I understand Commissioner Diaz's question, is whether that could potentially impact 302 and 303's vote.
They're not swaying me. We already voted on this in the budget.
Yeah, I was.
So just need to clear, so it's your legal advice, we can move forward with this vote, or we should not until you read through it, or you're okay?
I just showed it to him.
I mean, you're asking me off the cup. Right now, I don't see a particular legal impediment. But, I'm just going on the fly here based on something I just read off of the phone, so I'd like a little time to maybe discuss it with the manager, look at,
Okay. So for the city manager, can we pull those 2 items? Is that did we already sign, or how is that going to hurt us?
Or he can recuse himself from the vote if that's.
Yeah, I would ask, I don't know, Clete, if any of this is time sensitive, I just want to add just a couple of facts so that folks are aware. I mean, as you stated, this was a budgeted item. There's also 3 price quotes that were received and gone through the entire vetting process of staff to make the recommendation. So ultimately, the recommendation is the staff's recommendation to the commission to approve. I haven't read what was provided just now because I haven't seen that, but I don't, whatever summary was that as far as advocating to move forward on it or not, I mean, from my perspective is somewhat irrelevant. Obviously, the voting commission is the one to make that decision, but staff's position as recommended and move forward in the staff report has spent the details to identify what equipment is needed, has gone through the process of requesting 3 quotes and making sure that everything is, from a procurement standpoint, justified and meets the needs. So, Clete, I don't know if you can add, if any of this time delay, because part of this process, we only have 1 meeting in December, puts us out to January. This is one of those items that's part of the budget process that's cyclical, given the calendar timeframe, and that, putting us out into January, what impacts we would have for that.
Thank you, Kevin Sweet. The two trucks that are being purchased are very hot items. They are typically a quick turnaround. Oftentimes, if you go out with an ITB on such equipment, there's no response because they don't need to go through an ITB to get those vehicles off their lots. They sell them fairly invitation to bid. The other factor is because they move so rapidly and because the need to make a quick purchase, that's one of the reasons we went through the 3 quotes. Going through the county purchasing agreement would have delayed that even further, probably would have been about $5,000 to $9,000 more per vehicle. We think this is a good purchase. It's definitely needed. We have our new lift station crews now. We're taking over that service. These vehicles will be instrumental for those to be able to work, our staff to be able to work effectively with that new service demand.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor? Point of order. My question was not about the necessity or not of purchasing the vehicles. It does not escape me that this is already a budgeted item. I understand the procedure. My question was not that, which is why I brought 302 and 303 together. My question for the city attorney was that if it is his legal opinion that it is okay for a commissioner to go ahead and advocate to the other commissioners, because if that's the case, I have a lot of items I would like to advocate to my fellow commissioners about, especially budget items, which unfortunately I did not get an opportunity to really truly explore in this last budget section, because as we later learned, one commissioner didn't even know we were voting on the budget. So quite frankly, I think it's important that it be clear if the policy is okay, and I unfortunately may have misunderstood what advocating up here, via email prior to a vote is, then if that's okay, I'd like to be able to then just kind of have your blessing that I'd like to advocate for positions, when the meetings come up.
Okay.
Based on that conversation, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented minus the one item removed.
Objection.
Well, hold on there a second. Let me run the meeting
I'll
here if I
second.
can. Hold on.
Of course
Hold
you
on.
would.
Hold on. Let me. I think that this is a very strong reminder that we must be careful. And it's not just sending an email regarding something that's going to be voted on between us, but that we don't have dinner or lunch and talk about things that are going to be voted on. We should not be going on Facebook and commenting on after another commissioner's commented and voicing opinions about something that's coming before us. All of those are, we do have, I would suggest that this is an opportunity to be reminded of the lanes that we must stay in, and this is not something that is negotiable. This is Florida law. We're not supposed to do it. We can kind of sometimes sway off, and this is the first time it's happened and with this commission. I think we take this as a reminder, take it as hey, be careful. Now let's move forward with the business of the city. Now, with that being said, the deputy mayor has made the motion to approve the entire consent agenda, and it was seconded by Commissioner Bruce.
Correct.
So we're not going to get a legal opinion from the city attorney, is that
I
correct?
think, frankly, I think you guys need a legal
I
opinion
think so,
regarding
too.
this issue as a body. So everyone understands what I thought everyone understood about the rules regarding position statements and how dangerous they can be and how they can be misconstrued. Whether or not it impacts these two purchase items, I've heard from the manager, these are budgeted items.
Correct.
So there's no surprise, right? So, but in other situations, and there are nuances to the law and facts count, emails like that would be totally not advisable in the context of a quasi-judicial matter, for example. So I think the commission probably just needs a refresher on position statements, how to go about presenting your views outside of a meeting to your fellow commissioners or fellow, for information, and some of the do's and don'ts. It seems like that would be in order, Commissioner Diaz, without a doubt. If that's all that email or text is all that occurred, there were no dialogue or deliberations by commissioners outside of this publicly advertised meeting regarding these two purchases, then it's unlikely that it would rise to the level of a legal impediment for the commission to vote on these two preordained budgeted items. But in other cases, other matters, it may matter a whole lot more than perhaps it does for these two items. So I'll be happy to give you all a refresher in writing so everybody understands what I think the ground rules should be.
Thank you.
If
That
that's
sounds great.
satisfactory to the commissioner, my position right now, based on what I read, it would not be a legal impediment to 302, 303. But conduct like that in the future could impact future decisions of the commission, and I will provide you written guidance regarding position statements.
And I'm not arguing the
That'd be
legality of
great.
voting on it today.
You know,
That's
this
not a.
was a mistake. This was a mistake I made as well. I was never made aware that you're not allowed to communicate via email 3 years ago as well. So Caruso was not made aware. He had no idea this was not a malicious or intentional thing, and now he knows. And the problem is we never were told any of this. So that's the problem.
I never read the Ten Commandments, so I guess I never knew that murder was not a good thing. So I guess maybe
Let's
homicide
just move
is okay,
forward,
you
please.
know?
Let's
So
move
now
forward,
ignorance
please.
of the law, is that where we're going? So ignorance of the law. So Chief, if you stop me, I didn't know that the speed limit was not a suggestion, okay? Florida Sunshine Law is very clear, and this is not the first time that this topic has come up amongst this body. Many residents have made this statement publicly, that there are more than one commissioner on this dais that communicate amongst themselves, travel amongst themselves, God knows what else they do amongst themselves. But the reality is that now we have something in writing, where before it was just an insinuation. I know we're going to vote on this. I don't have a problem with the trucks. The problem is that I'm sitting there, I open my email, and all of a sudden I have a message from Commissioner Caruso, and I'm like, why on earth? He doesn't even talk to me. He shows up at the Rotary meeting and ignores me. And then now all of a sudden he's sending me an email, and he's asking me to vote in favor of these items that are on the agenda. I haven't even looked at them yet. I haven't even seen the agenda, quite frankly, just yet. And I hadn't had my opportunity to sit with the city manager. I mean, of course that prejudices a vote. Today it was something that maybe we all consider inconsequential, and hey, no problem. You know what? Wink, wink, move on. The deflection of the deputy mayor is amazing. How quickly he's willing to deflect, a potential violation of the law. But I get it. Look, we're going to get the trucks. It's going to happen. And the votes are here. I mean, I can count to 3. But the reality is, all I asked for was a legal opinion, because I think that this stinks to high heaven. It's not the first time it's stunk up here with items like this.
And you've got what you've asked for. And
Correct.
so,
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Mayor.
So,
Call the
motion's,
mistake. Let's move on.
yeah,
Of
motion's
course,
made
of course,
and seconded.
Commissioner.
Christian.
Which one is that? Was that Brian or Victoria?
Christian, you can take that. We have a motion and a second.
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Aye.
Commissioner Caruso,
No.
Commissioner Diaz,
No.
Aye.
Commissioner Bruce.
Aye.
Okay, and the motion passes. All right, then that brings us then to public hearings agenda and item 400, second reading of ordinance 2025-16, amending allowable expenditures of the tree bank funds. Anthony, is that you?
That is me.
And we,
Yep, just give me a second. There we go. Ordinance 2025-16, ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Winter Springs, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Winter Springs, Section 5.9, regarding the expenditure of monies collected in the city's tree bank, providing the repeal of prior inconsistent ordinances and resolutions, incorporation into the code, severability, and effective date. As you noted, Mayor, second and final reading of this item, also a public hearing item, just modifying the tree bank expenditure requirements. Be happy to answer any questions. There haven't been any changes since the first reading, by the way.
okay. Any discussion? If not, I'd ask for a motion. Oh, that's right, I apologize, we have to do public input. Just, ladies and gentlemen, this is just tightening up how we can use the arbor fees that we collect when someone cuts down a tree. We're just tightening things up, okay? Any comment from the public? Anyone that would like to address this particular item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public input, and I'd ask for a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve item 400.
I'd like
as
to make a
presented.
motion.
All right, you make it.
Okay, Commissioner
Thank
Bruce.
you.
Okay.
I'll second her motion. Did you make that motion?
Commissioner Bruce, you broke up. Just need to hear you say, I make the motion to approve.
So sorry. I make the motion to approve.
I'll second him.
And, okay, that's made by Commissioner Bruce, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Christian?
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Aye.
Commissioner Caruso.
Aye.
Commissioner Diaz.
No.
Commissioner Bruce.
Aye.
Commissioner Baker.
Aye.
And the motion passes. And that brings us to item 401, the 7 Brew Drive-Through Coffee on State Road 434. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioner, Mayor McCain. Let me make sure this is on. Okay, so it's working. So this is agenda item 401. I'm Senior Planner, Project Manager for, of course, Community Development, and my name is Janelle Garnett. And the property, the project we're discussing is 7 Brew. It's a drive-through coffee shop. I don't know why this is doing this. So 7 Brew drive-through, and property is located at 1248 East State Road 434, where the newly Blake's Common plat was approved recently. So it is, the pre-application meeting was January 27th. Then we had the site plan, aesthetic applications and development agreement that was submitted March 13th of 2025. Setback waiver application was September 18th, 2025. And October 21st, 2025, we received the service window waiver and the streetscape waiver application. The service window waiver is due to the fact, as you'll see, that if you do have a service window, in this case a service door, has to be to the rear of the property or the building, just to the rear, that's it, or an alley, since there's no alley, and it will be located on the side. So, in the streetscape waiver is basically they're just reorganizing the buffer widths for each item that's required for the buffer widths, but it still exceeds what is required. And then we have the October 13th public notice letters, and October 20th was the public notice signage. Applicant is Aaron Dudley from CEI Engineering. Today we have 7 Brew as well, a representative from there present, and the applicant representative, in case you have any further questions to them. So property is located in Town Center District, T5 Transect. Proposal currently is to develop a 7 Brew drive-through coffee shop at the Blake Commons to include a 510 square foot coffee shop with 2 drive-through lanes and an attached 262 square foot cooler storage. It's attached by a breezeway. So since it's attached by a breezeway that does not exceed 35 feet in length, it's just considered an extension of the principal building. There's a Q&A analysis that was done. So the development accommodates up to 19 vehicles within the drive-through, which exceeds what's required. So they're basically meeting it. And community workshop was held on June 10th of 2025. No objections were raised by citizens at that time. And the P&Z board voted unanimously on November 6, 2025 to recommend approval of the site plan, aesthetic review, waivers, and development agreement. So here's the site plan and the drive-through, as you can see, 2 lanes. Here's entrance exit, and the proposed drive-through service window, or in this case, as I stated, door is on this side. And here's the landscape plan. Here are the elevations. This is facing towards State Road 434. And here's the rear. Here's the cooler storage area. And here are the sides. This would be the side that the service doors that I was speaking of. And propose is that the City Commission recommend approval of the site plan, the aesthetics waiver, the 3 waivers, as well as the development agreement, subject to the execution of the development agreement and Second condition, all grass on the property shall be Bahia grass, no St. Augustine grass, or grass types with low drought tolerance shall be permitted. And also, we have the economic impact analysis required before City Commission, which they did submit already on December 2nd, which was part of the agenda attachments. And that concludes staff presentation. Any questions?
No,
Will the commission?
not from me.
Seeing no,
I think I have a couple questions.
Okay.
Can you explain the waivers to me a little bit more?
Sure. So the first waiver is, let me go back to the waivers. First waiver is setback. So required setback is 50 feet. And they have, sorry, I haven't seen it in a while.
It's okay.
That's, I believe, I don't want to say I believe. So just give me 1 second so I can say this correctly and not assume. And let me see. Okay. So their setback is required as the maximum 50 feet, and what they're asking for is 68.37 feet from the state road of 434.
So they want to go back even further?
Yeah, just
Okay.
So they can do the two driveway line.
and they had to consider that they needed to meet the required landscape buffer and then the two lanes for the drive-through.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the setback requests we've been getting lately are to move it closer to the road, so.
This particular setback is typical of the town center district. They're in the about 68, 70.
Okay.
They usually don't exceed that except for the one incident.
And then there was one for their streetscaping,
The
correct?
streetscape is because, let me go to the landscape. So landscape does require, in total, 27 feet in a width, like the whole width. But then it breaks down into, you need your sidewalk to be 6 feet, then you need your actual, 1 second. You need the actual, so, okay.
5
16
landscape
foot.
Yeah,
area.
so
16-foot
it's
landscape
just,
and
it's
treescape.
6 feet per sidewalk, and then you need 17 feet for your landscape and treescape, and then the landscape area has to be 5 feet. So they just rearranged some things, and meaning, since there's an existing sidewalk that's 5 feet, they're just continuing that.
Okay.
And they're pretty much continuing the same front as the learning experience, which was approved for the same waivers for landscaping.
And there was one more?
And the third one is the service
service
window,
Okay.
which,
I've got
yeah.
that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
is there discussion?
Not for
I
me.
would like to, I'll make one point, and again, I don't want to hold this project up in any way. I wish them success, and I don't think it raises, or rises to the level of, in any way, speaking against it, but, man, our town center is supposed to be walkable. There's no walk-up window, there's just cars going around, and it just concerns me. I know there's not a whole lot of land left to be developed in the town center with ACE and everything else coming in, but I would, in any way I can, anyone looking to develop, the idea and the design for decades for the town center was a walkable area. And you know, really, tables, chairs, be able to walk around, stop, visit, you know, visit with your neighbors, go grocery shopping, do those things. And I'm a little discouraged that there's no walk-up window to this and that there's absolutely no walkability about this at all. I do, in fact, I know that they're very popular. I wish them well. I do, sincerely. But I will voice that one concern. Again, doesn't rise to the point where I'm against the project, but it does, I'd like to personally verbalize my concern with the town center and the future of the town center area. Okay? With that being said, why don't we ask for a motion before we go to public input? Or do we?
go to
well,
public input,
We'll go
then
to
we'll do a
public
motion.
input first. Thank you.
We're going to have some very caffeinated residents in this city.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. But
That's number 8.
we don't choose businesses. That's not
Yeah,
our role.
yeah.
Anyone that would like to voice their opinion specifically about the Seven Brew? No? Seeing none? Then we will, then
Make a
we'll.
motion?
Yep. I'll accept the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve item 401.
Second.
Okay, motion is made by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Commissioner Crusoe. Christian?
Commissioner Caruso.
Aye.
Commissioner Diaz.
Aye.
Commissioner Bruce.
Aye.
Commissioner Baker.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Aye.
And the motion passes unanimously. Welcome to Winter Springs. Right? Okay. That then brings us to our next item, and that's item 402, first reading of ordinance 2025-17, reasonable accommodation from the city's land development regulations and certified recovery residents. I believe I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
Motion made by the Deputy Mayor.
Second.
Second, do it, all in favor?
Aye.
Or is there objection?
No.
Hearing none?
Ordinance number 2025-17, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Winter Springs, Florida, amending Chapter 20 zoning, Article 5, supplemental district regulations of the City of Winter Springs Code of Ordinances to add procedures for processing requests for reasonable accommodation from city's land development regulations, which shall also be applicable to certified recovery residences in order to comply with Florida statutes. Section 397.487, amending Article 3, establishment of districts to establish certified recovery residences as permitted or conditional uses in certain zoning districts, providing for the repeal of prior inconsistent ordinances and resolutions, incorporation into the code, severability, and an effective date. This is first reading, also a public hearing item. As the title indicates, there's a statutory requirement that the city adopt an ordinance related to the certified recovery residents. Part of the requirements include having a process available regarding potential reasonable accommodations. This ordinance intends to meet the minimum statutory requirements for certified recovery residents, inclusive of the procedures for reasonable accommodations, which would not only apply to certified recovery residents, but could potentially apply in other circumstances under applicable state and federal law regarding reasonable accommodations under the Fair Housing Act and ADA. I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the particular ordinance.
Okay. For those that are listening, I know Mayor explained, this is accommodating statutes. In other words, Florida state law has said we must pass this housekeeping. This is requirement. Must be done, federal and state requirements. So that's what this is. Is there further discussion? If there's no discussion, then I'll open it to public input on this particular item, right?
Leah Weissman, and I am a resident. I know the state kind of pushed you into this, but is there something similar or any change in wording that could make it apply to every building? Because there's a lot of buildings that, you know, you could do the same, say the same thing, that they need to be changed. The second one was, what scared me the most is that, I don't know who, it's just a very vague mention of someone saying, you're handicapped, but you're not. And it doesn't say who, or their qualifications in general. I mean, it doesn't even, I think it says city manager, somebody or somebody or somebody. So I'm like, I know from working with the parks, a lot of you guys have no clue. And that's why it took so long to get the stuff done, which I'm so happy I did. So thank you, but I don't mean to sound critical. It's just that it means that someone can actually say you don't qualify as a handicapped person when by law they do. And it would still not matter. It's what it looks like. And maybe I read it wrong, but that's how it kind of looked. And I just hope that also applies to other businesses and homes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else that would like to comment specifically on item 402? Just make sure you're not getting up to comment. Great. And Rabbi, you're okay? All right, then we'll close public input, and I'd ask for a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve item 402 as presented. And just
Okay, motion is made by the deputy mayor,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Baker. Christian?
Commissioner Diaz.
Yes.
Commissioner Bruce.
Aye.
Commissioner Baker.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Aye.
Commissioner Caruso.
Aye.
And the motion passes. That then brings us to the regular agenda and item 500, adoption of a resolution 2025-25 establishing a partial rental fee waiver policy. And
I'll make a motion to approve item 500.
is there
As written.
discussion? Or Anthony, can you just kind of give us a brief? Oh, sorry.
If it, yeah, I mean, if it's necessary.
Just
I mean,
for the residents of the.
Okay, this item this item was requested by the city commission. The commission directed that I work with staff to evaluate the possibility of having a partial rental fee waiver policy for use of city facilities. So we took the general framework and direction of the commission and evaluated that and put together this policy, which would allow certain nonprofit corporations that have a principal physical address registered with the state of Florida in the city of Winter Springs, not a post office box. It would permit these charitable organizations to request a partial rental fee waiver. The commission requested that waiver not exceed 50%, and then the resolution and policy requires that in exchange for that partial rental fee waiver, the charitable organization would provide some in-kind contribution to which is defined as charitable donation of goods, services, and/or volunteer time on behalf of the citizens of Winter Springs. The resolution establishes an application process, so relevant information can be presented and evaluated, so the request can be determined. The request would have to be determined by the city commission on an application-by-application process based on the review and approval process that's laid out in the resolution. So you asked for a policy and a framework, and that's what's being presented to you. It's a very limited partial rental fee waiver that meets, I think, the direction that you gave, at least at the last meeting.
Thank you. For the city manager, I apologize, I'm kind of surprising you with this, sorry. I try not to ever ask questions that you're not aware, but do you foresee, or do you foresee problems? Do you foresee anything that we could do to make that better, easier for staff to manage? Or do you have any recommendations on this? I understand that you will do what the dais votes. You're a professional, but do you have any input that you'd like to share?
No, I think we just need to make sure that the application is clear, that, specifically nonprofit within the city limits. I think we've talked through it, as Anthony said, amongst myself and the administrative team and Christian as to what that looks like. I would see an uptick, hopefully, when they've gone through the vetting process, it'll be, to be more of a consent if approved once they've been properly reviewed. It definitely will add a little bit more of a level of burden to properly review, but nothing glaring at this time that stands out.
My apologies again for surprising you with that.
No,
I
okay.
usually try not to do that. Okay, discussion? Any other discussion? Questions?
City manager.
Then
I'll make that motion. So I'll make a motion to approve item 500 as is presented.
a motion is made by the deputy mayor. Second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bruce. Christian?
Baker.
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 What did I say?
Bruce.
Oh, sorry.
Bruce is on
Yeah,
the phone.
sorry.
Commissioner Bruce.
Aye.
Commissioner Baker.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Aye.
Commissioner Caruso.
No.
Commissioner Diaz.
Aye.
And the motion passes. That then brings us to item 501, deputy mayor nomination for calendar year 2026. This is an annual thing.
Yep, so just to review, Mayor, you'll open the nominations. Anyone on the dais or on the phone can make a nomination, including of themselves. They will serve as the deputy mayor for the 2026 calendar year. If only one name is put forward, we'll go down the line. It's an aye or nay. If more than one name is put forward, we will go down the line and you'll say the name of your preferred person.
Sounds good. So then that opens it to the floor. Does someone have a nomination that they'd like to make?
I'll nominate Kate Resnick again.
Okay.
You sure? So you're saying I did a decent job?
You didn't do a bad job.
Well, you didn't let me do anything.
Do like the job.
Kirk
Yeah,
is
does it?
city mayor.
Yep.
He's going into an election year.
He didn't really do much.
You know how that
I do believe, I know we're planning a family vacation in February. I may miss a meeting, so you have the opportunity to run a meeting.
It's not February 6th because I've got a,
Not
I don't know what day of the
February
week that
6th.
is. It's a Friday, okay.
It's not February 6th yet.
My anniversary, so.
Oh, yeah, good. Ah, good.
The wife is like, don't be February 6th.
It's good to make.
No? Okay. Is there a second nomination? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any objection?
Objection.
Okay. What do we, I tell you what, so we'll go with, the motion is made by Commissioner Baker. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Crusoe. Then we'll have a vote. Christian?
Okay, Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Resnick,
Sure, aye.
Commissioner Caruso,
Aye.
Commissioner Diaz,
No.
Commissioner Bruce.
No.
And so the motion passes. I would personally, as a personal note, like to say thank you for diligent work on some of the, working with our delegation and moving forward some appropriation requests this year. And I appreciate the work that you've done.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. I was not expecting that. I
Yeah.
took places, but okay.
All right, new business.
I have one I'd like to, can I start?
After you, sir.
All right, so over the last few weeks, I have been back and forth talking with Tallahassee. Last commission meeting, I did ask all of us to kind of pause while I went back to them and talked to them, and they are adamant that they want us to use their language, and that they would say that we would have to go to 4 districts and a mayor, and that there would be no other variation from what they put forward. If we were to agree to adopt the language that they have put forward, the only language that they would change is the area of voting by ordinance. So they would take that part out if we would agree to it. Any of the language that we put in or any of the ideas that we put in, they won't accept any of them. So our one option is to consider bringing that back as that and taking it from them. Our other option would be to say we don't desire to adopt any version, and then Tallahassee would run it themselves. Those are kind of our handcuffed 2 choices.
Open for discussion. I'll go last. But,
Let them do it. Sorry, it's, we're being strong-armed, we're being reactive, we're doing their bidding for them by bringing it forward. I don't think they have a strong case to truly bring it forward themselves, which is why they're asking us to do so. We shouldn't bow down to home rule rights being taken away from our city, making a precedent for all cities. And we should not be held over our heads that appropriations or other things could be taken away from us by not doing something that is very politically motivated and does not come from our residents. So if they want to put it on it, let them put it on it, but we're not, I strongly oppose us doing it on their behalf.
Anyone else? Oh, Commissioner Caruso.
I'm also a hard no on that. The state should not tell us what to do. No one took any effort to go door to door, get the residents' opinion, get a petition, anything. The amount of people that was claimed to have supported it, like Mr. Gentleman over here said, I don't think it's right, and I'm all for the fight. That's how I feel.
I agree with the Colonel, Representative David Smith, that this is, has no place. We know by the articles printed in the media that this was put forward. The bill was written by, and the wording on the ballot is written by someone running for office next time around. The most fearful thing, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but did they remove the wording about changing administrative duties for the mayor?
They said they would. They said they would.
would remove
That's
that.
the voting
That
by
was-
ordinance is the only thing that they would remove. They have all the rest of their language to stay the same.
There's also a cost in having something added to the ballot. They want to have something added to the ballot, let them pay for it. It's the first time that I'm aware of in Florida history that the legislature is trying to shove a rule, a change. I'm the mayor. I will benefit from this. But the way this is, I'm not against the idea or the conversation, but the way this is being handled by someone running for the mayor's position is appalling. And I gotta be careful, I don't want to cross the line here, but this is awful. I say that we do as our city charter has said since 1959. If we want to make a change, we do a charter amendment. We appoint residents to take a look at it, not from the dais. We appoint them. They take a deep dive into it, an 18-month deep dive into it. They take a look. As the Colonel said, nobody's ever said anything to me. I'm the mayor. Nobody's ever brought that up to me before. You know, others have said, what are you talking, where did this come from? Look, let's let the process run as it should and let it go as it should and do the right thing by our residents and move forward. And we'll let them have their time. And this may come back before the ballot, but if they want it on this one, yeah, I think that's a mistake. So I'm finished. Since we're not voting on anything, we'll just, you brought it up.
I'm hearing 2, 3, because if we're not going to bring anything back, then that's what I'll report back to them, that we're not bringing anything back.
Nobody appointed Commissioner
Commissioner
Resnick
Diaz
to
to
be
go.
reporting anything to anyone. I don't know why he's negotiating on behalf of this body or the city. No one appointed him to anything. The cynicism and hypocrisy of this on, from the commissioner is unbelievable. And I mean, I've seen pretty low things, Commissioner Resnick, from you, but this really sets a new bar. This shows what being on two sides of an issue looks like. You get to say, oh, look, nobody wanted to vote for it. Nobody wanted to push it forward. I tried. This is laughable at best, regardless of our opinion of what Tallahassee's doing. Regardless if we agree or disagree as a people and as a body up here on the mayor having a vote or not, that is a completely separate discussion. I also don't feel comfortable with the home rule discussion and what have you. I'm a realist as to what the legislature can do because I've gotten to watch the legislature up close and for many, many years when my wife was working at the legislature, both the House and Senate. So, I got to see it, kind of in action. But this is the hypocrisy, the cynicism, the reeking of just political corruption with bringing this up the way you're bringing it up, just to be able to get and say, oh, you see, it dies, that's it. Tallahassee can do whatever they want. Nobody had the will to do it, is absolutely wrong. And Commissioner Resnick, I mean, that's exactly why I voted against you for deputy mayor. You shouldn't even be up here, sir. And what you just did is
Easy. There does need to be a certain level of no, but decorum. Please, let's not say. I would just
that is decorum.
respectfully
I was holding
ask
back.
that we not insult each other
I was holding
during
back, my
the
friend.
meeting. Yeah, I'm sure.
Why don't you go ahead? Why don't you go?
Move
It's your night. No, it's your night.
along.
Go ahead.
Move along.
It's
Let it go. Let it go. Let it all out. Let it all out. Come on. Come on.
Here we go. Here's the grooming of the psychologist. Here's how the
No, I'd love to hear the
psychologist
rest of
grooms
it. I would
people.
like to hear the
You
rest
see how
of
he's trying to bait me to go ahead and fight him? This is the citizen. This is why our city is so toxic, Commissioner Resnick, because of people like you. I have explained to residents, there's no off-ramp to these fights. You have now one person running with their agenda. You have then a reaction that has to happen, because in physics, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And what happens is there's never an off-ramp. So the toxicity continues. So what ends up happening, we get a new city manager, we don't give them a chance to then get the job done. Then we bring something else in, then we don't give that an opportunity. Then we're trying to work on the stormwater, but then, we have this other complaint. And then it's always, raising taxes and raising fees and making it less affordable to live here. I mean, please, Commissioner Resnick, trying to egg me on. You know what? You're a real piece of work.
Okay, so with that, we brought it up. It appears if we are, I for one, sir, I am the mayor. It was my view that it might be inappropriate for me to engage with our delegation and the legislators and really dive into those. You have a relationship with them. I appreciate you trying to provide an olive branch. We do not want a fight with our state legislatures. Let me be really clear, we really don't. This is not something where we will lose in this. We fully understand that the damage that this, having an argument back and forth with our delegation in Tallahassee could do some real work. I think it could do some real damage. One of the reasons that this is bothering me so much, the damage that this potentially could do to appropriations and things and working and getting projects done, and is potentially could do some real harm, and now we're verbalizing something against leaders in Tallahassee that is going to be painful, and this pain and this potential damage is being brought on by a very, very small group of special interest folks. We made a decision, let's move on.
So,
Sir.
Since that seems to be where it's going, it's time for us to do a city manager review. How would we like to assess that and do that this year? I'm always that proponent of getting a 360 evaluation. We could do a third-party company to create that, or we could do, that would be my preference, or we could find some other methodology behind it, but his 1 year is just about up in a few days, right, sir?
I'd certainly like the city manager's input on it, and anyone else's input. I don't think that the idea of an evaluation is necessarily a bad idea. I don't know, did we have that actually written in the contract? That we're going to do a 1 year?
Process, yeah.
Yeah. Is that typical? And
I would say the 360 review has some pushback, particularly in that role, and a lot of private sectors have gotten away from it because there's valuation in providing what those serving under you provide, but I think we need to have a discussion around, because it is a mutually agreed review process on how we will get to that point. But yeah, absolutely. It's laid out in the employment agreement on what where we are annually on that.
And so for me and for residents, what is the difference between a regular review, annual review, and a 360 review?
Do you want to, or do you want to? Go ahead. So the 360 evaluation would be provided by a third-party company. Said third-party company would get to do a quantitative analysis with some qualitative data of all the city staff. It's completely name-free, so it would go through this third-party company. We get a data set. We see what everybody has either checked a box or said, and then we can use that information to set. It's not just the director level, but we can go as far deep as we want. We don't have to go to the baseline staff level, but we can go a couple levels deep to see kind of the interactions, the involvement, the feeling, so we know the morale of the staff.
Okay, so I guess we're going to have to dive into
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Like I said, I think we can discuss further what that would lay up. A lot of the morale issues, frankly, we've discussed have been directly directed amongst this dais. A lot of the morale feedback that I'm receiving as the city manager is because of the interactions that we just saw tonight. So to make that as part of a review process for my performance,
I agree.
which becomes very difficult to be effective because we're just constantly, every step forward we take, we're taking 2 steps back. That's why I say a lot of even at the private sector and the corporate level, that is a tool in the toolbox, but it's not an effective review to do a 360 review, and more are getting away from it, not to mention there's a cost associated with it and a number of other things. So I would, as a component of the review process, I would certainly be open to, because it does provide some of that feedback that you've addressed and brought up. But in 1 year, to have that as an effective mechanism and be the only mechanism, certainly wouldn't be fair, based on what I'm walking into, 12 months ago and where we are today. It's not an adequate evaluation tool, from my opinion, just based on, knowing, having done them in the past. They can be effective, and certainly, but as long as that was one component of the bigger picture in discussion and not the only mechanism, then I would be, open to that. I just, my colleagues around the country, I'm seeing far less of that is happening, particularly in municipal government, and the toxicity that's happening in the local government and at the local level. You're seeing more and more are pulling back away from that as the performance matrix for an evaluation.
Is there a performance matrix that's working?
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, like anything, right, as you know, I mean, these 360 reviews, when you get down in the lower level and the director level, I mean, there's disgruntlement, there's discipline, in this role that has to take place, and people become resentful, and that's a direct result into their response, which isn't indicative of performance. I think we typically, and I know the city attorney and I talked about this to some degree at length, even when I first had started, what would that performance review evaluation look like? And to be frank, what has to happen before there's an effective performance evaluation is there has to be goals that are set by this dais. So to tie my performance and review to something where this own dais hasn't voted on effective goals and direction and policy, we're kind of out in limbo. So I think, particularly for this year, which I know Commissioner Resnick and I have discussed, looking at getting a strategic plan moving forward and having those things be part of that is really, and frankly, I don't think you can, I honestly don't feel that you could do an effective evaluation, because this dais hasn't set the direction based on goals and priorities to accomplish. It'd be kind of loosely, one-offs, to be honest with you, and it wouldn't be a comprehensive evaluation. Not to say that we don't need to have that conversation and process, but I think it would be, wouldn't be effective, to be honest with you, from my view of it. I think we need to be working towards that, and I think that step is a true, a true strategic plan, and these are what we need to go, because, I mean, if you take any one of our directors or staff, depends on the day of what the direction is. I mean, I get, emails from various commissioners on a daily basis, and there's just no consensus amongst this dais to be able to effectively determine my performance.
That was my other new business item, so that's fine, go ahead.
Commissioner Baker.
I just wanted to say that I've taken some time to speak to other cities all over Florida about how they do reviews, and I think we talked about this a little bit about 6 months ago, probably, where I asked about if you've basically written your own job description and what your goals are and whatnot. And I think at this time, the review, if we do a review, which many cities do not even do it,
Sure.
that it should just be based on how you feel you're doing and what goals you've met, and projects that you feel proud of or are lacking. And and I don't think that anybody should be graded because it's a emotional play. Some people are just the kind of people that will give everybody a 3 out of 5 no matter what. And then there's other people that, because like you said, they've been reprimanded or something like that, or have a personal grudge, they're going to give all 1s or in categories. So I don't feel that those kind of reviews are actually effective at doing anything than making a person feel like they've just been kicked. So, but I do think that looking at projects and timelines and things that you want to do moving forward would be a good start for something next year.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, just to add to that, I fully intend on doing kind of a sort of a recap, accomplishments, where things are at, where we're headed.
Mm-hmm.
We've got that 1 year, sort of like indirectly the mayor's responsible for kind of a annual state of the city. This is what accomplishments we've had over the last year, which has been substantial. looking at moving forward and what does the next year or 2 years look like, and kind of laying that out for the commission in more of a, in a direct report that would be able to itemize and really account for that, because I think, I think as we've looked over the last 12 months, it's been a number of things, and folks forget about those because we're on to the next crisis of the hour or the day. So my intention was to fully kind of do that as we're closing in on this 1 year, to do kind of a recap of my role and where we're at in staff. So I absolutely would do that anyway, would be my intention.
I'd like a chance at this real quick. I have now been the mayor under 3 different city manager, acting city managers. And I like to, look, I want to be very careful. I don't want to inadvertently slight someone, or right, but I think the deputy mayor, there appears to have been a theme under one of the city managers where the directors and folks were frankly fearful all the time. And the staff were always in fear of being fired, and it was a very strong manager form of thing. I'll tell you, having worked under 3, and I know the professionals that I meet with and talk to at the director level and all the way down, sir, I am grateful. And it's unfortunate that even today I find mistakes and things were let go, or opportunities that the city missed, or things that didn't happen the way I would really have liked them to happen. We now have a leader. And so I want to make sure that, man, that I verbalize my appreciation, having been here working with directors and working with 3 different city managers, how fortunate we are to have you. So when this process comes in and we decide, I want to ensure that it's built around a process that brings us together, that we are making improvements, that it is not adversarial in any way. It's how do we work better together? What would you like this dais to do for you as much as what we would like you to do for us? That we need to come together, and that all has to be part of that process. The idea should be about how do we do a better job for the residents of Winter Springs as a group, and working with our very talented city manager. And we need to move forward in a positive way. I appreciate your professionalism. Frankly, a master's degree in public administration kind of goes back to strong mayor thing. 20 years of experience leading city governments, doing all those things. You got more experience than any of us do. Then you have relationships with your team and with other city managers and things. So we need your input on putting this stuff together. And I'm done. Any other input?
Anybody? The only other thing I was going to bring up was back to that word strategic plan, to change it from last year to this year, would also then include possibly a proper strategic plan with a third party to actually govern us through it. So that way you have this steps. Yep. A strategic plan. So that way he has those measurable goals for us to move forward.
I mean, what do you think about that, Mr. Sweet? I mean, we've talked about strategic plans for a long time.
Yeah, I think based on kind of the state of where things are at, one, I think it's effective, and we should be doing that. It's probably worthwhile to have a third-party facilitator to get us there. That's a common practice, whether it be a nonprofit organization or any other municipality. Many have at least have that direction and guidance to kind of pull it through. So you have a neutral third party that's kind of driving the conversation and decision if that's the direction we want to go in, as opposed to myself or a staff member kind of driving it. And we can kind of be neutral and be part of the participation of that. There's obviously a cost to get there, but I think it would be money well worth spent to be able to get us to a guiding document. We've done it on the Parks strategic plan, which kind of hasn't really evolved too much, and I think we really need a true agreed upon, because the one thing that this dais is charged with is policy direction, and as far as staff, we get direction, as you know, from this dais, and we find on a daily basis that we're having difficulty on really deciphering what that direction is, and in some cases are causing pause and the inability for us to make decisions because we don't know which direction to vote or, so I think it would be a worthwhile tool to have and something that, you know, that this dais can set so that we can proactively move forward. You know, there is, we'd have to research, particularly research what that cost would look like, where that would come from. But I think based on the last attempt and where we stand today, having a third-party consultant would be the preferred direction to move forward.
Yeah. That'll be it.
Okay, so I believe then it is the direction of the dais that we start putting some ideas together and how we can move forward on a strategic plan.
Yeah.
So bring us back information to see how we can move forward on that. So if we're moving forward towards an evaluation, I guess we can schedule that, but what would be the appropriate, maybe throwing this at Anthony, because it's not appropriate to ask city staff to tell us how to necessarily evaluate the city manager. It wouldn't be fully appropriate to have the city manager tell us how to evaluate him. If we wanted to do, again, we've never, in all my years, even sitting, I've never seen us do an evaluation of a city manager. So I'm not opposed to the idea at all. Just looking for ways of how we can do it. What
I mean,
steps?
I don't have the contract in front of me, but the contract, I believe, requires a mutual agreement between the commission and the manager to lay out the framework of the evaluation. So,
I can read it
That's what
if
I'm
you
saying,
want.
so how do we lay that out?
I can read it if you want. I have it.
We can
the way I've-
create the framework.
Correct. I mean, Anthony's right? It says specifically in there that you and the manager
Good.
craft it together.
The one,
No, okay.
I mean, I've seen it, the way I've seen it done in practice is sometimes the commission asks the manager to proffer a format for the commission's consideration. Commission then reviews it, makes it necessary adjustments, they agree on the framework, and then, you know, the evaluation occurs.
Typically, I mean, that would be the way it would be, the review process or form would be tied back to, again, some of those goals and accomplishments, and, you know, there has been, in some cases, a numbered system where each individual commissioner or counselor would do their own evaluation, meet with the manager one-on-one, and then typically, you know, a comprehensive analysis of each individual commissioners or council members' evaluation form would be kind of combined into creating sort of one evaluation, which is more of a narrative as opposed to a number. So it highlights, you know, a few paragraphs of kind of, this is where things are, you know, we're happy with, and areas that we'd like to see some improvement, you know, tied back to something other than an anecdotal, yeah, I heard from a resident, and they didn't get back to him, so that's going to set the position of your evaluation for the past 12 months, which is unfortunately, as Commissioner you know, has stated, that becomes the process. I mean, even at other positions within organizations, the evaluation effectiveness being tied is even being questioned amongst the human capital and human resources groups, because they find that they're, one, not done effectively, because you're asking somebody to do an evaluation, and when it becomes an issue where folks don't like confrontation, and what ends up happening is there's a negative response to that when somebody's given an excellent evaluation, but yet they're a poor performer. And I can tell you that has happened in this organization and every other organization that is out there. And what ends up happening is, after the fact, where it's now documented, and you now have a written document that says you've done great, and now it becomes time where you have to put somebody on a performance improvement plan, or, you know, even as far as terminate them, knowing that they've had a long issue, but nobody really wanted to confront it. Now you have a documented backup piece of paper where that employee brings it and says, you know, everything I have here shows I've done a great job. And I've even had that conversation amongst, you know, our directors can tell you where I stand on some of that as well. So I think that the takeaway is as Anthony stated, you know, there's sort of a kind of a mutual agreed evaluation form that I would think would result in an individual conversation with each commissioner to then come back as sort of a comprehensive written evaluation and summary form, as opposed to a grade form, if you will, if that makes sense. So we can work on it. I mean, this isn't new stuff. I mean, I have I have half a dozen I can share you. They're all glowing, by the way, from prior evaluations. But I'd be happy to provide you with my historical summarization. And what I will say, to the mayor's point, oftentimes it just doesn't happen. That's why it says may conduct an evaluation as opposed to shall, because most come in and avoid it. And particularly, it only becomes an issue where performance is tied to compensation, and that's usually what happens. But for me, it was usually an every 3-year process, because 3 or leading up to a 3 or 5 year contract, as opposed to an open-ended contract. So I'd be happy to kind of get with Anthony, and there's a number of those things, so we can kind of come up with a mutually agreed evaluation form to then move forward the bigger conversation, which my recommendation would be kind of just a culmination of everybody's input into more of a summarized evaluation.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's move forward to that.
Great.
Got it? Okay. Any other new business? Then we'll move right on to reports.
City manager.
Yes, sir. Just a couple quick brief updates. I had an opportunity to attend an award ceremony, as I mentioned in the past, on Wednesday, December 3rd. I was accompanied by our colleagues, our Director of Public Works and Utilities, Cleet Saunier, our Chief of Police, was gracious to come down, as well as a number of other staff from the Water and Sewer Department, some of our consultants, to officially be there and congratulate and cheer on our Utilities Superintendent, Clifton Mullis, who has been awarded the 2025 Industry Advocate of the Year by the Florida section of the American Water Works Association. Thank you for those that joined me in congratulating him. I know it was a lot of hard work on his part, and the recognition didn't go unnoticed. It was a full house at Rose and Shingle Creek, and folks were able to give an opportunity to recognize somebody that truly is an advocate and stands out there in the water conservation area, and asks of, as Cleet can attest, anything that's asked of him, he steps up and does. So again, congratulations to Clifton on that award. And the only other item I had, just as a brief update with regards to this week, we're doing some minor sidewalk repairs at Central Winds, as well as at Stone Gable this week, and it's pretty much it. I will provide a little bit more background and response as a resident. Ms. Benton provided this handout just to provide a little bit more context and detail to where that stands. In fact, there's actually some work that's lined up this week, starting even tomorrow morning, with doing that. It's more than just the point of we've identified this and put an orange cone on it, many of which is from a structural standpoint, evaluating it. The last thing we want to do is be reactive and just do a quick repair that we're redealing with this in a month later. So it may seem like it's taken some time, but it certainly hasn't been ignored. There hasn't been an immediate safety issue based on the location of which is referencing to the sidewalk, but it's absolutely on our radar. It's something that the Public Works Department has been fully evaluating and planned for, and coincidentally, we do have some stuff lined up, I think even maybe tomorrow. So I'll provide a follow-up just so you have the specifics on that response, so at least you have something to refer back to. Other than that, I think that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
Anthony.
No report.
As far as my report goes, me and Tristan have sent out a couple things coming up, legislative action days, leadership summit, things like that are coming up, I think all next month or a little bit in the future. So if you haven't already, if you can respond to that, or you can come talk to me after, so we can get anybody who is interested in going. I did go ahead and buy the table for the leadership summit. We heard from enough people already, so that's cool.
Yep.
That's an 8-person table. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else. So, Commissioner Diaz.
No report. See you guys on Thursday.
Commissioner Bruce.
Yes, I want to thank the city manager and our utility director for implementing the backflow program. This is something that has been negligent, and I'm so happy that they have been able to put this back into production with the Cross Connect Control Program. In addition, I've spoke with the city manager about a potential park grant that is due March 1st, where we could possibly request funding for the boardwalk at Lake Jessup and Central Winds, if we'd like to. He's looking into it. In addition, I'd like to welcome back Bell Ave Studios with their grand opening. And lastly, very proud to be able to represent the city and speak at Indian Trails for the Teach-In and teach them about how to budget funds. It's not how much you make, it's how much you save. And that's my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Baker,
I have no report tonight.
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Holiday parade this weekend was kind of interesting.
We were soggy.
Besides, what's that?
We were soggy.
We were soggy at the end of it, yes. My only request, and this goes to both the chief, Brian, city manager, everybody, can we kind of take a look at the parade itself, sort of get some feedback from the community, get some feedback from everybody, also the vendors. I don't know if it was the weather or what it was, but I've gotten a lot of calls, and a lot of questions, and a lot of queries, including vendors and residents. So another reason for changing it, there was just a lot of questions on that. But the actual parade was a lot of fun. You know, I will say you can't fit 5 people into a Jeep very easily. So.
Or 3.
Or 3.
But maybe let's just say, hey, guys, can we go back to the float like we've done before?
Yes.
No.
No? Oh,
I like the cars.
sorry,
It's just.
Sorry.
Like I said to you, my issue with the
report,
float, well, no, it's fine. My issue with the float is that it's too big. So then you're trying to see residents on both sides. You're bouncing back and forth. So it works for all of us. Anyway, it can't make everybody happy, right?
So we split up.
Anyway.
Yeah.
What? We did that. Anyway, all right. All right, because, anyway, Tri-County's tomorrow night. Hopefully I see everybody there. Tri-County tomorrow night. I think that'll be a good opportunity for us to see our peers in other areas. Tallahassee bills are already being filed, so I'm looking across the dais and looking at the residents as well. Look for your favorite topic that you would like. Go on to either Florida House or Florida Senate. Look up the search keyword, you're going to find something, but a lot of the home rule bills are definitely there. Of concern, please, for those of you listening, pay attention to the tax bills, all of them. I'm worried about all of them. There's now 4 that have made it through to second committees, so watch out. As far as I've read all of them, none of them actually help us, but they all hurt us in many different ways. I'm watching them closely, so there's that. My last comment under my seat, it is the holidays. It's holiday time for everyone. This is the last full week of school. Then next week is half days for the students. So please start watching closely on the streets. They'll be walking the streets earlier of the day. Not in a bad way, Chief. They'll just be out there and about. Which then brings us to both Hanukkah and Christmas and other events and New Year's. We won't see each other till then. So Happy New Year, everybody. Happy Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and whatever else everybody celebrates.
Thank you.
Commissioner Caruso.
Just to add on a little bit of that about the parade, I had several people reach out and say they were protesting the parade because they weren't happy with the change and they liked Tuscaloosa Road, and I get it. So aside from that, I think it could have been a little better, to be honest. I mean, maybe it was the rain, maybe it wasn't. So that's all I have.
Okay.
Mayor McCann.
All right, I apologize. I got a couple more things than that. Okay, first, I want to repeat, I actually had friends in the city of Orlando called me and wanted to say congratulations both to Cleet and to Clifton when they heard that the Winter Springs staff were getting recognized statewide utilities and for their performance We're fortunate to have you both. We're fortunate to have our entire city staff. Let's see, we've had Veterans Day since our last meeting. That was a great event. We've had, everybody, I hope, had a warm and wonderful Thanksgiving, debating politics with your family over turkey. Maybe not.
We did not do that.
Right?
We
The
did not.
Christmas
Very excited.
parade. I'll be honest with you, my kind of view of the Christmas parade is, hey, the rain killed it. I mean, it's going to be really, really, really hard to evaluate the turnout and responses when that rain was there, but let's see what happens. Boy, since our last meeting, the Hurricane Milton FEMA funding, an additional $20 million, of which half of it is free and the other half is 0% interest. That was a big deal, and we kind of touched, I didn't want to let the cat out of the bag during our last commission meeting. We talked about, we had just approved the $20 million SRF funds, and then 48 hours later, we found out about another $20 million. We are moving this project in the wastewater treatment plant forward after decades of being ignored. We're getting it done. We're securing the financing that will continue to keep the utility rates. We're going to do everything we can to continue chasing funding, having the right people at the helm, as I'm looking to the back row, and looking at the city manager, having the right people. We're getting incredible work done. The long-term benefit to our environment and to the taxpayers and their utility bills is going to be astronomical. Let's see, that's League of Cities. Yeah, we had our meetings. I sit on the taxation bill. We did a lot of work on my committee in taxation. I will tell you, the one thing I will say, we deep dive, there's a big thing about this eliminating of property taxes. Yeah, they're saying they'll protect the police department and schools, but they're not protecting fire departments and EMS. There's a lot of different things. You're not allowed to cut the police departments, but you don't ever have to give them another dollar. That locks in their rate, and they'll never get another dollar. There's so many. Every law, not every, majority of laws passed through the Florida legislature have an adjoining implementation bill, right? There's bill whatever, right? SB, whatever you want to call it, HB, whatever number you want to call it, but there's an implementation bill that explains how they're going to implement this new law, where the money is going to come from, how is it going to be paid for, what are we going to do? What's the long-term shakeout? And a lot of times they'll do research and they'll do a deep study like this dais does, where we're going to do something. They do a deep dive. That deep dive search of how municipalities are going to survive after this takes place, it was vetoed. They cut it. They got rid of it. It was $1.5 million research study to find out how this was ever going to, what kind of harm would this do to the Florida economy? That was scratched. The implementation bill, they said, nah, you know what, we're going to break some tradition here. We're not going to do an implementation bill at the same time. So we're going into the Wild West here with this stuff, and that's the stuff that I've been working with. I am concerned. I am not against the conversation. Tax reform is not a bad idea. It's just the way we're doing it. That's my concern. So with that being said, Tri-County's tomorrow, and ladies and gentlemen, to all the residents of Winter Springs, to my friends on the commission, everybody that's here, the city staff, I'd like to say happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah. I'm these holidays, I have a lot to be grateful for. Sitting in the seat, I'm grateful. Yes, Christian, I am done.
A reminder for all, we do have a present from the Utilities Department, an extra meeting in December 18th.
Yes.
For all who can attend. But it is one topic, 9 a.m. But we do all get to see each other again.
Yay.
Oh, that's true. Oh, yes, thank you for that. Yeah.
Very lucky.
I misspoke. And so that brings us to public input. Anyone that would like to address the commission as we're going out?
Rabbi Wood.
Yes, my name is Maurice Capro. I am a Winter Springs resident. I happen to just walk out into the lobby, and I need to thank this commission, to thank our city manager and everybody else who was involved. I am blown away for the first time in my residency here in the city of Winter Springs, to see a Hanukkah menorah alongside a Christmas tree. I think that is an absolutely phenomenal statement of how wonderful this city is, of how we respect each other, and about how we get along. I just want to wish everybody a very happy holiday season, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. Thank you so much for all that you do. God bless each and every one of you.
Thank you, Rabbi. We appreciate you too. Mr. Gallo.
Art Gallo, 199 Nandina Terrace. I second what Rabbi Capro just said. That was good, seeing Christmas tree and the menorah all there. I am not thrilled or an advocate of the 360-degree survey because I don't think it's going to really get you what you want. And I think the city manager pretty much ran through a lot of the pros and cons. And I think your solution to do it together as far as an evaluation is best. But I don't really believe the 360 survey will work. Now, there's things you want to look for. Is the city making progress on things we should be making progress on? The morale of the staff, are they happy? What's the turnover rate? Now, there's reasons people leave, better job, better pay, and you might be able to determine things. I don't know if we do exit surveys and things like that, but that'll get you some of that 360 that you're looking for. On a different topic, I don't like to see, and we've had comments up here before, some of the fighting that goes on the dais. Now, I don't expect there to be 100% agreement on everything and all love around, kumbaya around the campfire, but it seems to me we need some team building some way, somehow, and some of the way I see it is some of this could be maybe we're just not communicating together enough to understand where we're coming from. And even after all that said and done, there's still we may not have made any progress, but I'd like to see some improvement in the way the dais communicates with each other, and so that we can disagree, but we can be civil. That's all, especially around the holidays. So, but thank you for all your service to the community, for all that you do, and happy holidays and happy New Year.
Thank you, Mr. Gallo. Anyone else? Oh, Mr. Miller is there, and then we'll go to Ms. Wiseman.
Yeah, Bob Miller, Winter Springs, 33, 34 years. I spent 7 years with an international financial group overseas where we had several hundred people in several countries, and we went through all this stuff about who gets promoted, who gets compensation, all those type of things. I also spent another 7 years with a major corporation working in the Middle East. Had an office of about 9 people, and we had some people in other countries. What I see here is a very confused approach, which surprises me at this late stage because the city went through about a year and a half or two trying to find a city manager. And there was some of the strangest things happened during that 2-year period about why some people were or were not appropriate or why they could be trusted or not. And I remember one particular case, I think one of the gentlemen up here on the dais said, well, I just don't like the way he looks at people, or he didn't stare at me. I don't remember what it was right now. But so anyway, we finally settled on a city manager. He's got a contract for, I guess, 3 or 4 years. I would assume he's probably entitled to some kind of recognition right now for his performance for the last year or two since he came on board. I look around and I think 4%, 5%, 10%, there must be some number that all of you would probably agree on. I think 0 would be probably an insult if that was what it was supposed to, is the way it turned out. And if that's the way it is, then he's obviously wasting his time here based on what I've seen all of you doing up here on, well, many of you on the dais, which has not been very encouraging for a gentleman who's trying to run a city, watching this, anyway. So I would strongly encourage you to drop all this stuff about a 360 and maybe just somebody make a recommendation. We're gonna have an evaluation, say somebody says 10%, there's no second. 8%, no second. And eventually you get down to 0, and I think he knows either you really don't need him, or you have total no appreciation for what he's been putting up with for the past year or two here. So there must be some number there that I strongly encourage all of you to bring up some evening on just put it on the agenda and then just vote right here in front of everybody and say why you don't support 10%, why you would support 0. And with the public watching, I mean, we know what's going on. We've seen what's going on in the city. The city's running good, I mean, relatively well, is my opinion. I have no complaints. Most of the people I know have no complaints. Maybe a few more traffic tickets, but that's always been a problem on the back streets. So anyway, thank you for listening. Carry on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Oh, sorry about that. And I mean, I already acknowledged you too, and then I still forgot, sorry.
Leo Weissman, we'll chalk it up to the hour and the darkness. It's been thrown occasionally around about having some type of, I don't know, appropriate behavior scale or whatever you want to call it, so people all agree on. Because what I'm finding is that it's usually throwing, I think, really slanderous things. If you weren't here, you were out in the street and someone said stuff like that, you could be sued because it's not true. It doesn't make any sense sometimes. And sometimes it might be true, but no one else knows what in the world they're talking about. And it's not solution driven. It's let's destroy the people we're not thrilled with at the moment. So I would rather, even if they said it has to be solution driven, or I don't know if I think we should do it that way, but maybe what we should do is just have this people meet together and do whatever. Because all of that bickering, I mean, I'll be honest with you, it sounds like some people are trying to get some people out of office. It's just like, we don't need to be doing that because I want to vote. Anyway, the other thing is that there's a lot of things coming down that seems the state wants to take power of, like our water quality and land rules and a few other things. So if we can afford to do, which we really need to, is I would say no for making it change, because that change didn't sound like I would want it anyway. And it seems odd to have a state suddenly say, here's the rules. I, again, have a minute left and I have nothing to say.
Wow.
All right, anyone else? All right, then we'll end public input, and ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful holiday. We'll see you the 18th, early.